welcome to Comic Book Day number 9. I'm Joe, and I'm here to show off all the comics that I bought this week. And if you are out there buying comics too, make sure to go through and comment and tell me what comics you bought this week. First, I've got The Flash, number 48. In this issue, Wally West, in the future still, Hunter Zolomon has told him about his twin children who, they have been erased from time ever since Flashpoint, and Wally West didn't even remember them after he got out of the Speed Force. So Zoom convinces him that he can go and destroy the Speed Force and save his children, who are trapped in there. We don't really know what, Zoom is up to. He escapes from the Renegades or the Rogues, the future version of the Rogues, who are really a police force. But he doesn't have his powers at all, and he sends Wally out, to go try to save his twin children, which already immediately starts to affect the future. I think they're in the 25th century. So even though this issue doesn't end or anything with Wally even entering the Speed Force, it just still ends with him racing off, kind of burying him, or in a race now. Barry's trying to stop him. So somehow it's going to have big, massive effect on the whole future. And I don't know what's going to happen, if it goes into the Speed Force and maybe they'll have a bunch of fights, or I don't know how Professor Zoom is going to, benefit from the destruction of the Speed Force. But, at this rate, he's kind of just obsessed with forcing Wally West into doing what he thinks is, what Zoom thinks is best for Wally. So, it's not going to be anything good. Obviously, there's some big trick trying to get the Speed Force open, is my guess. This is Weatherman number 1. I was pretty excited for this series. I had read, a little preview of it, and it looks, especially from this, front cover, I like the look of that. I was kind of disappointed because I felt like the artwork wasn't quite as crazy as, the front cover is. This story is taking place on Mars, and it's kind of following this weatherman named Nathan, who he's kind of the most popular entertainer, one of the most popular entertainers, at least it seems like, on Mars in the future. I think it's somewhere in the future, I'm not sure. Since he's so popular, he really doesn't care about his job. He shows up super late, right before he has to go on. Views his job more about, trying to make people forget about their problems, and one of those problems is that Earth has been wiped out. It was invaded and had a big attack. I don't know if that caused everyone to move to Mars, or if people just already were living on Mars at the time. They didn't explain that. But at the end of this comic, you find out that this girl who Nathan is going out on a date with, she's actually an undercover police officer, and at the same time, that she's kind of trying to go on a date with him, these mercenaries show up hunting him. At the end of the comic reveals, after the mercenaries have been kind of chased off and killed, Nathan is under arrest, presumably for causing the invasion of Earth, or somehow being connected to it, because they say that he's under arrest for the murder of 8 million people. It's a huge number of people. But I was a little disappointed with this issue because, so I don't know, maybe this is just my own personal problem. I like dogs, and this comic, he's got this dog Sadie with him the whole time, pretty much. And he takes her to work with him, and he takes her to the bar, and then right when the mercenaries show up to attack, just instantly Sadie is killed. I mean, I know some people just are too sensitive about oh, I like dogs and I saw a dog die, and while I do, I like dogs, so I don't want to see dogs die. When it's kind of beneficial to the story, I don't mind it as much. But I feel like this does what a lot of movies will do, especially. And I feel like there isn't enough characters in this whole, the beginning of the story, to where they kind of just have to kill the dog, because they just want to kill someone at that point. The movie Secret Window, the Johnny Depp movie, kind of does the same thing. I think that if you're watching a horror movie, or a lot of different crime kind of movies, you kind of can expect that it's going to happen. If you see a dog in a movie, lots of times you can count on it to die. But this comic hadn't even been violent up to this point. I mean, we did know that these mercenaries were after him, But it just seemed kind of like it was like a random, like, cheap, shocking moment. And I feel like just in general, killing a dog is just kind of like a cheap thing, because it's like easy writing. You don't have to make a character that anyone really cares about and then kill them immediately, because you just rely on the fact that people like inherently care about dogs or pets, and then you just cash in on that death. So I still want to keep reading Weatherman, but hopefully it doesn't have just kind of like lazy stuff. I feel like that's a kind of lazy thing to do. So hopefully it's a little better than that. This is Mr. Miracle #9. This is such a great series. This issue focuses on Mr. Miracle and Calabac, Darkseid's son. They're like just trying to do peace negotiations and end this war that, between the new gods. Well, between the new gods, right? The people of Apocalypse are new gods too, I'm pretty sure. Maybe I'm wrong, tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know enough about the new gods and all the stuff. I mean, some of it interests me. I have some old Mr. Miracle comics that I want to check out, and it's probably something I should check out more, since it's like, pretty popular with like DC fans in general. But it's just so interesting to see it's Mr. Miracle's reactions. A lot of Tom King's stuff, the writer, his stuff is more kind of psychological about, what it's like to be these heroes. And so this, so much deals with just like Mr. Miracle being really weighed down by the fact that he's like this great warrior and that he has to, lead this charge against Apocalypse. He has a real complicated story where he was raised on Apocalypse, but he's actually born to the other new gods on New Genesis. So that was like a peace treaty thing where he was raised on Apocalypse instead. But, he's kind of conflicted because he has these different, he grew up on Apocalypse and now he has to fight them. Even though he never liked them in the first place, it's still kind of hard for him to, go against his own home world. I'm really excited to see how it'll actually finally ever wrap up. And I really want to know, what's with, the whole series has had kind of the weird moments where, like, it's like a bad TV where the bars of color kind of go up randomly. I've always thought that it's some kind of weird, like, this whole series might be actually, kind of like a mental manipulation that's happening to Mr. Miracle. But I don't know. Hopefully we'll find out pretty soon. I guess either ways we will, because there's only 3 issues left. Mr. Miracle, as well as being a really great written comic, I think is one of the best drawn comics right now. And like I said, there's always really great, this is a comic that's really about Mr. Miracle's, emotions about all this stuff, so you really get some great, drawing this way, Here you see him being really upset seeing this head. I know I recognize this guy from an earlier issue, but I can't think of who he is at all. Like I said, I don't know enough about the new gods, really. But they do some great stuff with, like, the reactions. Oh, here's a cool sequence, too, where to kind of emphasize how long this pit is that they have some of the new gods trapped in. They spit, and then you see the words get smaller and smaller as the spit kind of travels farther away. And then, finally it just changes into voiceover because it's gone so far that you wouldn't even be able to hear it from the point of the pit. And then it's a really brutal sequence where this table has these guys that are the legs of the chair, and Calabac is so mad that he just takes this guy and just hurls him at the wall. And while it's really brutal, it's really, it's beautiful in a weird kind of messed up way. I mean, just seeing him flying at the wall and the way they kind of, show where, just how fast he's flying and how much force has been, applied to throwing him. And you just really see, you kind of understand why when he's thrown at the wall, he just crushes up against it. But another really great reaction is right here, and I love just this little panel showing how shooken up Mr. Miracle is by having, seen this guy hurled against a wall and just crushed. And Mr. Miracle's really been so great because, I mean, Mr. Miracle himself, the hero, is just such a like human character, and he's just so, you know, put upon by all of this, who's just, you know, he happens to have grown up on an alien planet. And then you get a great little sequence here where they kind of slowly reveal Darkseid, because, you know, he's finally maybe going to have a presence here in this comic. This is Dry County number 4. In this issue, Lou, you know, kind of, last issue he got a response from his comic that he put out, his comic strip, trying to find Janet, and, you know, he thought that he got a response from her. So in this issue, he writes another comic, trying to get a little bit more information, but not reveal that, you know, he's on to, you know, who he thinks is the bad guy, Cliff. But he finds out that his comic strip is probably about to get canceled, so he kind of has to convince his editor to let this one last strip in at least. So that's probably not going to be, you know, an option for him anymore. And then also his friend Brian, who's been tailing these 4 blonde girls that they kind of keep running into. He, you know, tries to trail them, but like they're kind of on to him. So Lou and his friend have to go tail them now, and they think, you know, that they found them. They find their license plate number, and they find that it's a rental car. So then they kind of track down where they're at. But when they get to the girls just like take them hostage, basically. They think they're busted and trying to save them, but one of them pulls a gun on them. Then at the very end of this issue, Lou's neighbor Joey, who's been in a coma since the first issue pretty much, they were watching Janet. Joey and his brother were watching Janet when Janet was taken and Joey was put into a coma. So he says that he doesn't know who knocked him out, but that it was a tall guy with long hair. So that's not matching either of the guys that Lou has been investigating so far. Actually, the only one it matches is Lou's friend Brian, but I really doubt he's involved. But I don't know. Maybe. I don't know how this is going to end up. This is Marvel 2-in-1. This is the first annual. And it's following The Thing and the infamous Iron Man. Previously, Dr. Doom. But this was a good story. It's just The Thing and Dr. Doom kind of trying to go around and find other Dr. Dooms. They find this one, you know, right away, and Doom gets into a fight with himself. They end up kind of breaking down just to, like, you know, with sticks and fighting each other. You know, like a bow staff kind of stick, not just like sticks off a tree. It's got a lot of flashback to when Victor Von Doom was a kid, too, and like how his father raised him to, you know, kind of know how to spar with the staff. This evil Dr. Doom, you know, is real kind of like insulted by how, you know, weak he feels that the other Dr. Doom has become, where he, you know, is now helping Ben Grimm, and he's like become a good guy. And he's also in this, Victor Von Doom meets a new council of Reed Richards, who they go into his head to kind of explore, you know, what happened when Dr. Doom lost his powers, his god powers, at the end of Secret Wars. And so he kind of sees where, you know, Reed Richards didn't actually die. He really, to make Dr. Doom become a better man, he kind of made him think that he's dead, while at the same time, you know, Reed Richards and his family are completely removed from the universe. But he kind of thought that, you know, if he left the universe completely, that Dr. Doom might start to become a better man, you know, especially after he fixed his face and everything. So Dr. Doom kind of has this, I don't know, I think he's pretty conflicted about how, like, Reed Richards might have kind of helped to better him, but he also has this sense of, like, I do need to be helping the Thing and the Human Torch. This is The Magic Order, number 1. This is a new Mark Millar comic, and it's one that, so Netflix bought all of his company. Now he's kind of like putting out comics that, you know, they kind of are straight up adapting them into like TV shows. This comic is described kind of as like Magic meets the Mob, and so it's setting up that, like, there's someone going around killing magicians that are part of this like inner circle of this magic order. and all the magicians are, and like wizards, I guess, really. Magicians is probably kind of minor. All these wizards are kind of like supposed to protect, the normal world from all these giant weird monsters and, weird magical kind of happenings. So someone's going around killing them, and so this family kind of has to come back together, the Moonstone family, and it's a father and his 3 kids, after their cousin is murdered. That's the first wizard who's murdered. Then by the end of the issue, you have another wizard who's taken out by this change spell, which has a really awesome sequence to it. But you're also kind of like introduced to this like evil order. I don't remember if they actually like give them a name at all. But it's like this one group of wizards who kind of branched away from everyone else. And they're probably the ones they're thinking, who are behind these assassinations. But I don't know, it's pretty cool kind of setup. It'll be cool to see what they do at all, with kind of this idea of like, just the story of someone, trying to take over power. The leader of this evil group was also kind of related to this person who died. So it's, kind of family going against family. And I'm guessing these evil wizards are obviously probably not, they don't care about really protecting people as much. And maybe it's going to be kind of a, wizards trying to get rid of humans, or at least allow freaky magic stuff to happen more often. The art in the Magic Order is really great. I just looked up, and Olivier, I should know how to say this probably because I took French. I know his name's Olivier because of that. But Coipel? I don't know if you would actually even say the L at the end of his name. Either ways, this artist is an artist that I like. He did House of M, and he did a lot of the Spider-Verse stuff. I just figured it out because I thought that this looked so familiar, but I really love the way he draws. I really like how the humans are kind of drawn out, and here in this, the bad wizards use this kid to go in and kill the good wizard. I guess I assume he's a good wizard. And it's really freaky sequence here, but I like where she's telling, the wizard's wife just to be quiet. It's kind of very violent, obviously, when he goes through and kills the wizard, because this is a Mark Millar comic. If you read Kick-Ass, you know how violent it is. And then here, you get an awesome shot of, this kind of evil group of wizards coming in, and they just, like, as they come in, they just, like, black out the sky, make it completely dark and cloudy. And then here we get a look at some kind of giant monster that the wizards have, protected us from. This is like a flashback to when the character Gabriel, who I'm guessing is going to be kind of our main character. This is him as a little kid and his dad. And so yeah, this is the first time I think that he saw, this big giant monster of any kind. And this is the kind of stuff, I guess, that wizards are protecting us from. So it'll be cool to see if, more of this stuff starts popping up, these giant monsters. But my favorite part of this art was this sequence where there is a change spell that has been kind of, set on them. And it just makes everything change, and it kind of turns into these blocks that just, like, disappear. And then, by the end of the spell, they'll just be completely replaced with someone else. If by just this couple randomly now in their own apartment. This sequence and then changing just into blocks. I mean, here you see this guy, he's the wizard. But there you see him just change into a bunch of blocks and blow away and cease to exist. And then you see these blocks kind of form into a new apartment that just, these people think they've always lived there. They have no idea, that their lives have been altered, or maybe they were just created completely for the first time. So I think it's going to be really cool to see how these spells are kind of visualized and how they're drawn out. This is Kick-Ass number 5. In this issue, Mr. Solo is introduced, who's a guy who's really good at, like, tracking people down. He's working for Hoops, and he pretty much right away finds Patience, the new Kick-Ass. And so he goes in there with, like, a bunch of guys, and she kind of takes out a couple of them, but, ultimately they take her and her daughter, And they're going out to some factory where, Hoops wants to, they say that he wants to interrogate her. He thinks she's working for, some rival gang or something, maybe. And that's pretty much all. Not a lot happened in this, but it's really just setting up the next issue, which is the last issue, I'm pretty sure at least, of this, I don't know, this story arc at least. So I want to see, what's going to happen. This is Plastic Man #1. It gives you a lot of little, like, backstory on him, where he was kind of this, like, criminal guy who, during a robbery got this weird chemical spilled all over him that, they thought killed him, but then, brought him back as Plastic Man, all rubbery and stuff. And so he's, at the very beginning, he gets attacked by his former, like, mob friends. He's kind of just trying to figure out information because he doesn't really remember much of that night when he died. He's trying to figure out who killed this security guard that was there. He finds out, he gets a call from one of his, former mob buddies who says that the other 2 guys have gone missing, he hasn't heard from them. And then he's got some monster or something that is, like, right outside his door. So Plastic Man goes to try to help him, but gets there and it's too late. He's been killed. Before he goes after his friend, this Spiral agent kind of breaks into his house and tells him that some, evil organization has infiltrated all these different places, even the Justice League. And when he finally gets to his friend Benny's house, Benny's almost dead, but with, like, his final act is to write out JLA as the people who killed him. So I don't know what's going to go on. I don't know who this, evil organization is, or if there's really going to be, hopefully they really bring in some, like, Justice League members if he's going to be investigating them. But yeah, I really like, Plastic Man is so, like, weird as a character, and so, like, goofy. In this, he discovers a new slang term as Wang, just randomly from this kid. So he keeps using it, but he doesn't know how to use it properly at all, so he just keeps using it in all these different contexts that are really funny. And it's just fun to watch. He changes into, like, an egg shape lots of times. It changes into kind of weird shapes as it just bounces around town. Yeah, I like these kind of mini-series that DC has been doing. It's kind of cool that they're focusing on these kind of weirder characters and making these little series for them. Alright, so that's everything. Thanks to everyone for watching. Please make sure to go through and leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Tell me what comics you're reading. Just in the comments, tell me, anything you bought this week. And also tell me some, like, good New Gods story arcs or comics to read. Because, like I said, I really don't know that much about, I know a lot of those characters, Darkseid and Mr. Miracle and Granny Goodness and all these different kind of people. But I've never really read many stories with them. So tell me about that. Tell me what stories to check out. And then make sure to come back next week for another episode.